Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I have for you more Dollar Tree autumn decor woods, completely transformed from unattractive to very cute. These are perfect for tier trays, shelf sitters, table decor, or wherever you just want a touch of autumn decor. These were easy and inexpensive transformations, simply created using scrapbook papers, ribbons, jute twine, and bits and pieces of autumn florals. Welcome to all to my channel today, and please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content, and leave me your comments and tell me which one of these Dollar Tree woods is your favorite. Okay, let me show you how I transformed these Dollar Tree wood decor pieces. For project number 1, I have this wood pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. Now it has a jute twine bow. It's painted in a color that's not really a pumpkin color. It's more like a cantaloupe color, but I love the shape of it. So I always see the potential in Dollar Tree pieces. So I start imagining right away when I see them what I could do with them. And I always refer to scrapbook papers because I think they just work so well on these wood pieces. So I'm showing you 2 options there. Those are Hobby Lobby scrapbook papers. I have some jute twine, a couple of autumn leaves, which you could pick up at the Dollar Tree or any craft store, a couple of really small pine cones. I purchased a bag of those at Hobby Lobby. And I have there one of my most favorite ribbons with the little orange leaves. And I have a kind of a woven burlap ribbon, which I had gotten at Michael's. And then I have some twine that it's an orange and burlap twisted twine. Really, really pretty that I got at Hobby Lobby. I have there some pumpkin colored acrylic paint. That's the Crafters Collection brand. I'm going to be using Mod Podge. And you'll need a zip sander or a piece of sandpaper or a sanding block or an emery board or whatever you can find to file the sides of your piece to clean up the edges. I'm showing you here that you can use a napkin if you like. Both of these napkins are from Hobby Lobby. But you can find autumn napkins at Dollar Tree and at a grocery store. Any store like that will carry those. Now, I thought about putting that little happy fall sign that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, but I ended up not using that on this piece because I thought the pumpkin print was a little too busy to put that on. So first things first, I'm going to paint this pumpkin. And I'm going to paint it along the edges for the front. That's just in case any of the edges peek out after I put on my scrapbook paper. And I'm also going to paint the back. Now you can cover the back with scrapbook paper if you like. I'm just doing the front on this particular piece. So I always lay my wood piece on my scrapbook paper to check the direction of the pattern on the scrapbook paper. Some have none, some definitely have a direction. So I always like to be sure that I'm cutting out my paper correctly so I don't waste a piece of scrapbook paper. And I just take a pencil and I draw around the piece, around the wood, and then I just cut it out with scissors, obviously. And there we have the cut out scrapbook paper in the shape of the pumpkin. Now I'm going to be using the heat method. I'm going to cover this pumpkin surface with a generous amount of Mod Podge. I'm going to let that completely dry. And I'm going to use my little mini Cricut heat press to reactivate that Mod Podge when I put the scrapbook paper on there. But you can use an iron on a low setting with no steam. You don't have to have a Cricut mini heat press. Now I'm going to go ahead while that's drying and create a little figure 8 bow. This is what I call it because it looks like a figure 8. And I'm going to create just a small bow to go at the top of that little pumpkin. Now I'm just going to create 2 figure 8s for that bow, and I'm going to leave around a 4-inch tail. I'm going to take a little piece of pipe cleaner which matches my twine, and I'm just going to put it around there to secure those loops, and that's going to be the base of my little bow that's going to go on the top left corner of this piece. Now I'm going to use, I absolutely love this ribbon. It's a narrow ribbon with a little orange leaves, and it's so pretty when you see it up close. So I'm going to create a 4-loop bow, or 2 loops on each side, and because this ribbon has a good side, I'm going to have to twist my little ribbon loops as I apply them. I'm going to secure those in the middle with another small pipe cleaner, which I'm going to wrap around there, very secure, twist in the back. And I'm just going to cut that ribbon off from the spool. Now, I did not create a center loop on this bow because I'm going to be applying some floral right down the middle, or just some floral decor pieces. I'm trying to, my mind just went blank there. Did you ever have a brain cramp? Oh my goodness. I just had one. Okay, it happens to all of us, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to put my 2 bows together. And they're going to go, as I mentioned, at the top left corner, nestled right up next to the stem. I have there a couple of leaves, a couple of little mini pine cones. I have some jute twine, which I'm going to be wrapping that stem of the pumpkin with that jute twine, which you can very easily find at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to turn my pumpkin over, and I notice the back side is all finished. I painted it. You could put scrapbook paper if you like, or you could just paint it. It's up to you. Some of my pieces I finish with scrapbook paper on the back, some I don't. But I always finish it at least with a nice coat of coordinating paint. And I'm just going to be wrapping that stem, securing that on there with a little bit of hot glue. I always use Gorilla Hot Glue. That's my preferred hot glue of choice. So my hand's a little out of frame there, sorry, but I'm just wrapping the stem. And that scrapbook paper has a nice burlap colored background, so that jute twine goes very well with that, as well as that ribbon, which has that burlap colored background with the little orange leaves on it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that all the way to the top, secure it, and then I am going to dab on some paint on the top of there in a burlap color, as you can see right there, just to finish off that stem properly. I just dab that paint on with a paintbrush, and that will just finish off the top of that stem so it looks finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and warm up my little Cricut mini heat press, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to apply my scrapbook paper to my pumpkin. Now, remember, as I mentioned, you can use an iron. You don't have to have one of these. They're really wonderful to have if you ever get an opportunity to just pick one up. Really great to have on hand. Okay, so I'm going to apply my scrapbook paper And then I'm going to use a piece of parchment paper, put it right over the top of that, and I'm just going to press, and that Mod Podge will be reactivated and adhere that scrapbook paper right to that wood. This is the most wonderful method of applying scrapbook paper to an object. Anything that you can press, this is the way to do it. Oh my goodness, you get such a beautiful application. Very, very smooth. So I make sure I go all the way out to the edges. I just go around my piece a couple of times, make sure everything is all adhered. And there you have it. It's a beautiful, smooth application. My stem is all wrapped. Now these pieces do not take long to create, but they turn out so cute to add to your autumn decor. Now, I did take my zip sander and go around the edges to clean everything up. As you can see, I have it right there. Any of that paper overhanging there on the edges, I can clean that up very easily with my zip sander. Now, you could use a sanding block, a piece of sandpaper. You could use a nail file. Very easy to do. And this is just an awesome method of really cleaning up the edges and making it nice and smooth and perfect. That other scrapbook paper there would also make a really cute pumpkin. One of my favorite scrapbook papers is also there on the table that you see there. Okay, so now I have a couple of fall leaves. I chose ones that have orange to go with the pumpkins. Now I'm going to place my leaves on there. Now notice where I'm placing my hot glue. I'm not placing it on the front of the pumpkin. I'm placing it at the top, right at the base of the stem. Now I'm going to place 2 leaves on there, one facing the each direction toward the outer edges of the pumpkin. In plain words, one to the left and one to the right. That's what I'm trying to say. Now look how pretty that is. Really picks up those colors in the scrapbook paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply my twine bow right there in that same spot where I put the glue to adhere the leaves. And being that this twine has a burlap color and an orange or a more of a pumpkin-y color, I would say, rather than orange, it really goes beautiful with that scrapbook paper. It's amazing how you can take these little woods that are really kind of, I'm sorry, Dollar Tree, but they're kind of unsightly, really, and make them into something super cute. It's just so easy to do and fun. I love transforming them. Okay, now I'm going to pop my little orange leaf bow right on top of that twine. Now notice that I don't place my bow straight. I angle it toward the side. I push it right up and onto the very edge of the top of the pumpkin, right next to the stem. And that's where it's going to reside, if you will, and it's going to look so cute up there. Now I'm going to take 2 pine cones, little ones, and I'm going to point one downward toward the outside of the pumpkin or the outer perimeter, and then I'm going to take the other one and point it the other direction toward the stem. Now these look so cute on this little pumpkin. The hot glue will hold that very well. And I press those pine cones together so there's no gap in between them. And then I'm going to further secure my bows, loops of my bow. If your bow doesn't behave exactly the way you want it, just hot glue put a little dab of hot glue and place those loops exactly where you want them. Now, I thought about putting that happy fall on there, but then I said, nope, I think that scrapbook paper is busy enough on its own. And I think that piece turned out so cute. How easy was that to transform that piece? All right, project number 2. Now, I had redone this piece in another tutorial. I'm going to do it again. I like this piece. It's kind of a rectangular pumpkin with the stem, if you will, on top. Now, this scrap of paper to me was the bomb. I love it. It has dogs on it and pumpkins. Oh, it is so cute. Now, if you don't like this scrapbook paper, there's plenty of other ones to choose from at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. You could go there as well. Now, this does have a pattern, so I wanted to be sure to place my wood pumpkin right in a particular area where I could showcase as many dogs as possible. I don't think I've ever said that before, but I think this paper is so cute, and I really like to do things kind of outside the normal box. So I'm putting dogs on my wood pumpkin. Okay, so I have here from Joann Fabrics. Oh my gosh, I got some really awesome ribbons and some different Halloween items from Joann's recently, discounted to 60% off. And so I got that cord there, which has like a kind of a cranberry and gold twine. I'm going to use that because there's some kind of that color on that piece. So I am going to get this little pesky grateful sign off of here by taking my heat gun and just loosening that up a little bit. That's a little wood piece that's sitting right on top of there. It was really easy to get off. I like to use a paint scraper to get my pieces like this off of Dollar Tree items. Now, it does leave a little bit of residue on there, and I don't want any lumps or bumps underneath my scrapbook paper. And I'm checking the edges here to see if I could possibly tear off the paper that's on the top of there. It was on there pretty tight. So I'm just going to take my zip sander, and I'm going to go over any areas that might create a lumps or bumps underneath my scrapbook paper. So, I am going to cut out, or first I'm going to go around my piece and decide exactly where I want to place that scrapbook paper on my wood pumpkin. So I took my pencil, I decided where I'm going to place it. Now, I did cover the back side of this pumpkin, and I used another part of the print, if you will, of that scrapbook paper, and I had different dogs on the back. So I had some certain dogs on the front and different dogs on the back. And that's what I'm doing right there. And again, just using a pencil to trace around it. Simply cut that out with scissors. I'm going to be using, again, the heat method to activate my Mod Podge that I'm going to be placing on there, on the front and on the back. I keep my sponge applicators in a baggie when I'm doing multiple projects. That's a good idea, just so they don't dry up. So I just squirt my Mod Podge on there. Nice generous layer all the way over the front and back, and I'm going to wait until that dries, and then I will apply my scrapbook paper with my Cricut mini heat press. And then the back side. Okay, so now it's time to do the front side. And I have my dogs placed on there just exactly the way I wanted them. And I put my parchment paper on there, and I'm going to just go over that, reactivate the Mod Podge, and get a very beautiful, smooth application of my scrapbook paper on there. This works like a charm. And I'm going to go over all the edges just the same as I did the pumpkin with my zip sander. Now, you'll notice that I didn't paint the edges of my pumpkin. And the reason for that is, coincidentally, that same color, almost identically, that was on that scrapbook paper was also on that wood pumpkin as I purchased it at the Dollar Tree. So I just left it. I was lucky in that sense. I didn't have to do any painting. So I'm going over my piece, just getting all those nice clean edges on the front and the back of that scrapbook paper application. Now I took some jute cord. This is a little bit thicker jute cord than the one I used on the other pumpkin. I'm using a little bit thicker of a cord here on this one. And I'm just going to wrap that, obviously putting down a little bit of hot glue to get it started. And I'm going to wrap and wrap and wrap until I get up to the top. And then I'm just going to secure that with a little bit of hot glue. Seems like always when I do my stems, my hand is out of frame. I'm not sure why. I guess because I'm just trying to get a good vantage point to get that on there. But now you can see it's quite elementary to just wrap a stem. I don't think it's, it's not rocket science or anything. But anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and secure that with hot glue. I am loving this one. Love this pumpkin with this dog print on it. I am a dog lover. I have a beautiful Labradoodle named Savannah. You might have seen her in some of my previous videos. She wanders in and out occasionally. Okay, so now I have that all on there secure. Now I'm going to take that cord that I mentioned before. It's a pretty cord. It's almost like a cranberry red. And I'm just going to create 3 figure-8 bows all together. And that's just going to be the base of my bow, which is, again, going to go on the top left corner of that piece. I take a little bit of a pipe cleaner. I'm going to wrap it around to secure all of those loops together. Twist it in the back. I leave about a 4-inch tail because I do want my tails to kind of cascade down the side of that piece. And for those of you who follow my channel, I love to mix my my ribbons and cords when I make a bow. Now, I have this ribbon, one of my favorites from Hobby Lobby, that I thought I was going to put on this piece because there is a rusty orange on this scrapbook paper. So I went ahead and I made this bow, but you're going to see that I ended up not using it because I just wasn't crazy about it after I did it. So I ended up replacing it with a really pretty woven burlap, very narrow ribbon that I had gotten at Michael's at some point in time. And you'll see that here in just a minute, but I'm just making mention that that's a beautiful ribbon. Absolutely. One of my favorites from Hobby Lobby, but not on this piece. Now, this is one of my favorite ribbons. They carry this, at least I assume they still do carry this at Michael's, but I remember last year I bought 6 rolls of this on Amazon. It's the most awesome ribbon. It's not wired, but it's kind of a burlap feel to it. I believe it's 7/8 inch, but it has the most awesome curly way of the details just curl. I'm going to show you that here in a minute, but it's one of my favorite things about this ribbon. The way that the tails curl, I just love it. You see how they just naturally curl on their own? Most ribbons do not do that. Okay, I'm going to snip off the excess pipe cleaner on the back because I'm going to stack these all together. Now, I think what you're going to see here in just a moment is that I toss that one bow off to the side. Again, in that little nook at the base of the stem, right at the very top of that pumpkin block, I'm going to place my hot glue. Now see how I position my bows. They're facing the side, not straight on the piece, but angled to face the side, if that makes sense. Just notice how I place them. Now that's layer number 1. So I was trying to, with my bows, pick up the colors in the, now you're going to see me toss this here. There we go. So much for that. And this is the ribbon that I went with. It's a Celebrate ribbon. It's a really pretty burlap. It's almost like it's like a woven burlap. So anyway, I made another little bow, 2-loop bow on each side or 4 loops all together. And I'm just going to put that on with hot glue. I'm just stacking. Rather than stacking my bows and putting a pipe cleaner around it, it makes it a little bit bulky. I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue. And I only do this with like little bows, but it works well on this piece. So that's the way I'm placing my bows all together. And then last but not least, my favorite ribbon is going right on top. And I love the way the tails curl down this piece. Pressing that on there, holding it nice and secure. If you want your bow loops to sit a certain way on your piece, say for example up against the stem, just put a dab of hot glue. Look at the curling going on there. Love it. I do trim those up a little bit, but no matter if you trim them, they'll still curl. Love that. So I'm just arranging my tails a little bit there, holding that bow there so it just glues very well. Now I'm securing it a little bit. Now Dollar Tree, every Dollar Tree that I go in has a lot of these wood pieces of all different kinds. And I hope that you're able to find them. I know sometimes Dollar Trees make, everyone a little crazy because you're going around looking at different Dollar Trees for these pieces that you see that YouTube creators do projects with. And sometimes the Dollar Trees, not everywhere around the country, have all of the pieces, but I hope that you're able to find these. But you can always improvise. You could use this scrapbook paper on a different piece, for example. So just use what you can find. Be creative with your scrapbook papers and your ribbons and your jute twines and your little bits of floral and embellishments, pine cones and such. Okay, so I'm putting 2 pine cones on there again, like I did before. One facing down, one facing up. Now, I felt I needed a little color. So I was looking around my scrapbook paper, and this is what you should do as well. Look at your scrapbook paper and try and bring out the colors that are in it. So I noticed on this scrapbook paper, there was a little bit of mossy green and some of the print. So I went to my floral stash, and I found these little green pieces that were attached to a stem of autumn leaves. So I thought, okay, that's perfect. I can add a little touch there and bring some color up to the top of that piece. So I ended up putting one on the left and the right, and then one facing downward, as you can see there from the pine cones. Look what a difference that made. Little improvements, little finishing touches. They all matter, and they're all worth doing, because ultimately your pieces will turn out so much prettier if you spend the time to really do those finishing touches. Now, I had one more thing that I wanted to do, because I had that pretty colored pumpkin down there, and I wanted to bring in a little bit of that pumpkin color. So I got a couple of autumn leaves. They're not maple leaves, but they're autumn leaves from a stem that I had purchased at Hobby Lobby. And that piece is finished. Now, this one is super easy. I like this paper, and I wanted to, because it had leaves on it and it said thankful, I wanted to cover this leaf with that paper. Now, I had to be very careful here, and if you use a paper that has a directional pattern, you have to pay attention to that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure how that leaf sits on its own, because it's like a shelf sitter. You can sit it and it just sits up on its own. So I had to make sure exactly where the bottom of the leaf was that's going to sit on the table. And I had to try and position my scrapbook paper on there so that thankful was running horizontally, if that makes sense. It just would have looked a little bit crazy if I had not done it that way, because the thankful would have been cockeyed on the piece, and that just wasn't the look I was going for. So I determined exactly how I needed to cut out my paper, and I just went around that piece with a pencil, making sure obsessively over and over again, as you can see here, I had to make sure I had that straight on there, because I knew I didn't have another piece of this paper. In case I made a mistake, that was it. I would have to either go to the store and get another, or choose another paper. Now, I did choose another paper to go on the back side that's very coordinating with that paper, and I'll show you that in a bit. It just has leaves, but it has the same colors, and it coordinates extremely well with that. And I did cover the back side of that. So here I am, just taking my pencil and tracing around that wood. I'm going to use the same method that I used for all the others, using the heat method, Mod Podge, and my Cricut mini heat press. There's a lot of curves and points to this one, but it's a cute piece. Last autumn season, I made a napkin holder with 2 of these. If you're interested in seeing that, scroll back in my playlist and you'll be able to see how I did that. But I made a napkin holder. Okay, so I think I successfully cut that out correctly, because thankful is horizontal, as you can see. Now, of course, I have to do something with the sides of that piece. So I painted it brown. Now, I am not a big lover of just brown. Brown is not one of my favorite colors. But I had to go with something that was going to coordinate with the scrapbook paper. So I went ahead and I painted this on the sides, all the way around, and on the back. And then I ended up just wanting something more. So I went to my stash and I found another piece of scrapbook paper that fortunately coordinated very well with the piece of scrapbook paper that I used on the front. And in the end, I ended up using a chippy brush with a little bit of Snow White Waverly chalk paint. Yes, I did that. I'll show you later. And I just kind of distressed, if you will, the outside edges I just did not like that flat brown color. All right, here's that scrapbook paper. It goes rather well with that piece that I used on the front. And again, I'm just going to cut that out. I didn't have to worry about a pattern on that one, fortunately. But I am going to cover the back side of that. I think it was the brown that was bothering me. So I'm always willing to go to a little bit of extra effort on all of the pieces that I do. So same thing, tracing, you've seen it before. Cut it out, and I'm going to be adhering that as well to the back side. Again, I squirt my Mod Podge on there. I put mine in a squirt bottle. It works like so well if you do it that way. You could always just use one of the smaller squeeze bottles that they have at the Mod Podge comes in at the Dollar Tree. I purchased my squeeze bottles from Walmart in the kitchen department. They do have them at the Dollar Tree, but they say ketchup and mustard. So I'm not sure, if you want that one. Okay, so I did go around. I ironed my my scrapbook paper on. I don't need to show you that again. I distressed the outside edges, as you can see there. Now you notice how they're not dark brown anymore. And I just made a little twine bow. It wasn't too much that I could do to this piece, but I think it's a cute piece to add to other autumn decor. You see how I distressed? I took a little chippy brush. It's right there on the table. And I just used a dry brush technique, and I just went around the edges. I just needed to do something. Now you can skip this part or do it. It's up to you. Project number 4 is an acorn. Now I'm going to have to pry off that little thankful sign. This one I'm going to cover with a little piece of burlap. I believe this was from a roll that I had purchased at Walmart. Now, fortunately, this piece is already the color that I need it to be, and I don't have to worry about seeing that color underneath or through the burlap, because it's already, a good color. So to get these pieces off, they're actually like sticky glued, but there's two little, they're like nails, and I had to pry them up with like a little sharp tool. Okay, so I am going to be Mod Podging again this burlap onto this piece with my mini Cricut heat press. Yes, it works for burlap as well as napkins. Okay, so a nice generous application, and I'm going to take it all the way up to the line of the top of that acorn. I'm going to let that dry, put my little foam brush back in the bag, and it's all dry now. And I'm going to go over it with my mini Cricut heat press and my parchment paper, and that adhered that burlap on there just beautifully. Now this piece has a little bit of texture to it, so it's really, it really looks nice. I'm going to be adding some color to this, so it's not going to be all bland in this color. So I'm going to go around and trim up my burlap as much as possible. Now, you know how burlap is. It always has like that little fraying quality, seemingly no matter what you do. Even though I have Mod Podge on there, I have these little pieces that just wanted to stick out. So I just put a little bit of Mod Podge on I'm having trouble getting it out there, on the edges, and I just dab it. And that helps to close off those burlap edges. Mod Podge is like the greatest product for so many reasons. But anyway, so here I am just dabbing it on, as you can see. And this is going to control those little edges so that they don't fray anymore. So I just dab that all the way around. Still taking care of some of those little frayed edges. Now I'm going to do something very typical of me, but I don't know if you've ever thought of doing this before, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I love to trim things out and line things and define things with cord. And I'm going to use some jute cord here. The jute or jute twine, if you will. The ones that you can pick up at the Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to take my Aleene's Tacky Glue and I'm going to put a fine stream of glue along the lines of the top of that acorn. And I'm going to place jute twine all over those lines. And this is going to create a really cool texture and definition to the top of this acorn. Now you probably could use Elmer's glue as well because that has a nice fine tip applicator. But I found that I could just use my Aleene's Tacky Glue. And by the way, you could pick that up at the Dollar Tree. That's a great glue. Very good adherence, and it's a really good strong glue. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the lines of my acorn. And I'm going to go and do all the lines in one direction first. I start my piece right at the line where that burlap ends, and then I just simply follow the lines of that acorn. And now you probably think, wow, that probably took forever. It really didn't. It really didn't. It was such an easy process. And I did it in probably around 15 minutes. No big deal. And now you can see what I'm doing here. I press it on and then I cut it off once I get to the other end. Snip it off and continue on. And I'm going to do all of those lines going one direction. Then I'm going to go back over it. And I will be overlapping the jute twine, but it works just fine. It works absolutely great. And you'll see that this looks really nice in the end. It's like a continuation of the burlap, only it's in the jute twine. And there you have it. Now I'm going to do the opposite direction. So I just go right over the top of any of those burlap jute twine that's already on there. And I'm just going to place that down and cover up all the lines of that acorn. This works really, really well. Now you're going to see later that I do take some brown paint with a dry brush, and I'm going to go over the top of that acorn to add some shading and just differentiate the top of the acorn from the bottom. You'll see me doing that here in just a bit. But I do add some color to this acorn, which you're going to see here in a little bit. And there you have it. Look how pretty that is. Now, it's still not quite dry, so you're seeing a little bit of the white glue there, but that turns out really cute. Okay, now we have to wrap the stem, of course. I'm going to do that with that jute twine. Now, I did go about doing this next step. You can do this or not do this. I went around the whole outer perimeter of that acorn and I put that jute twine. But then I ended up pulling it off, and I'll tell you why. Because when I went to stand up the piece, I discovered that the jute twine was interfering with that piece standing up on its own. And I really didn't want to create like a stand or an extra block in the back or anything. So I decided, although it looked nice, it looked really nice to have that all the way around to outline the perimeter of that acorn. It just interfered with the standing up of that piece, so I pulled it off. You do you. If you want to finish it off like that, you could do that or just skip that part. Okay, so a little dab of glue on the back. I'm just going to wrap that stem. Very easy to do, just like I wrapped all the other stems. Finish that off with a little dab of hot glue. For once, you actually saw me wrap that stem. I usually am out of frame, right? Okay, super cute so far, right? A nice little addition to a tiered tray or a tabletop or a little shelf sitter. Okay, so now this is the part where I do a little bit of shading. I've already done a lot of it that I'm showing you there, but I take a paper towel and or a piece of paper, and I just dry brush most of the paint off of my paintbrush. And then I'm just going to go around the piece and just add some depth. I paint right over the top of my jute twine. I paint those little areas in between the jute twine. I went around the outer perimeter. I went around the defining line between the burlap and the jute twine. And I just added a little bit of depth and a little bit of character to that piece. Now I decided to use that happy fall on this piece, just to add some color. And then to add a little more color, I'm using my favorite burlap background orange leaf narrow ribbon from Hobby Lobby. And I think it looks absolutely fabulous on this little acorn. So I'm going to create a little bow to go at the top of this acorn. And I believe I created a 4-loop bow. And I had to actually make this bow by twisting the ribbons because the leaves are only on one side of that ribbon. So however you make bows, you have to be certain that your leaves, if you use this ribbon, actually are showing on the front of the bow. So another little pipe cleaner. What would I do without pipe cleaners? And then I create a little loop right in the center. And I'm going to close that off, secure that loop, twist it in the back, and I have a cute little bow to go on, you guessed it, the upper left-hand side of my piece. Don't ask me why I always do that, but I do. I left like 4-inch tails on there, on that little bow, to cascade down the front of the acorn. Now I think this acorn took on a whole new life, a whole new appearance. And it's super cute now. It has a little bit of color. And it doesn't have that unsightly little sticky, I guess you could call it a sign or a tag on the front anymore. Much cuter now. I love to do Dollar Tree decor transformations. They're so much fun. Okay, upper left in that same nook. You guys are getting the idea by now how I like to do this? Okay, so I'm going to put that up there. And I'm going to put that happy fall sign not in the center, but slightly off to the right. Little bit of glue right there. Pop my bow on. Now, for this particular bow, I did have it facing a little bit more toward the front, as you can see right there, but I still angled it, okay? Because I had it more at the front of the base of the stem. And I mention these things. It seems like that might be trivial, but to me, it makes a difference, like application of your bows and where you put them and how you put them and how you angle them. So now I did want my tails to behave in just a certain way. So after I trimmed them up, I put a little dab of glue and I placed them exactly where I wanted them on the front of that piece. And then I put a little bit of hot glue, not on around every letter, but just enough to adhere it to that piece. And I placed it right over the line of that acorn. Not just on the bottom, but kind of right on that line. And that's up to you how you place yours. But I did go around that piece and dry brush a little bit of the white around the sides on that piece as well. That's just a little something that I like to do. You could skip this part and leave it a plain color, or you can, add the finishing touch like I did. I just dab my little chippy brush in there. It's got very scraggly ends. And then I just did just a light brush over that color of that Snow White Waverly chalk paint. That's just a matter of personal choice. And I also did that all over the back. So I didn't cover the back of that. I could have covered the back of that with just a piece of burlap, but I didn't. You could, if that's an option for you. But that's what I did for that piece, and that was piece number 4, and it turned out super cute. So you could see how you could take very simple pieces from the Dollar Tree and transform them into something really cute. If I had to pick my favorite, I would have to say maybe it's the dog print, or maybe that one, the pumpkin. But I really like them all. I think they're all super cute, great additions for a tier tray or any place that you would like to place them. If you are not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And leave me your comments. Let me know which is your favorite. Okay, until next time, you all take care.